Is your family farm's future uncertain? Silence may be the biggest risk of all. Discover how open conversations and gradual planning can secure your legacy and empower the next generation. Don't wait. Start the dialogue today. Learn more and download a transition planning checklist at fcc.ca/knowledge.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM, brought to you today by Liberty Amp from BASF. Thanks so much, everybody, for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 a big part of your workday. Also, of course, big shout out to everybody listening out there on the RealAg Radio podcast. I thank you so much for being with us. And like I mentioned, today is brought to you by Liberty Amp. Liberty Amp herbicide helps you accomplish more with less. BASF's new more concentrated formula delivers superior weed control on labeled weeds when comparing to generics. Designed to help minimize foaming and with optimal tank mixability with key labeled herbicide partners, Liberty Amp delivers dependable performance on hard-to-kill broad-spectrum grasses and broadleaf weeds, helping improve your efficiency at the field. And we've got a full great show here today with BASF. Looking forward to it. We'll be joined by Clint Jurke, who is he is no stranger to the world of canola agronomy. He'll be with us here today to talk about dealing with the weed spectrum. Of course, what do we learn in 25? We can apply to 26, some real hardcore agronomy stuff. Looking forward to having Clint on the show. It has been a while. We've also got Mark Alberts. He's going to talk about Invigor's L355 PC. This is a new hybrid that BASF and Invigor have for the market for 2026. We're also going to have a product spotlight today. We're going to hear from Jared Veness We're going to hear all about Liberty Amp. That's coming up here in a second. Jared is the National Technical Service Manager with BASF. And then we've got a panel. We're going to have a lot of fun with Shaun McKnight, Glen Forster, and Brent Galbraith, all from across the prairies with BASF. So great show here today for you. If you have any feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Okay, let's hear from Jared Veness about Liberty Amp and what created the idea for it to come to the market.
I'll even go back to it when I started my career, 2001 in research. We were looking at improving Liberty in the marketplace. So this has been a need and an ask from, I would say, the market for, that's nearing 25, 26 years. And at the time, it's a bulky product today, Liberty 150 is. And there was always a need or an ask to get it more concentrated, but again, not lose efficacy. So we joked at the time that, there's three certainties in life. It's death, taxes, and Liberty trials. And we've been taking a crack at this for essentially that long. And we finally got there, which we're incredibly proud to be launching Liberty Amp in time for the 2026 field season.
Okay.
So
yeah, go ahead.
No, just to add to that, and I think one of the critical pieces along the way is, and what we continually ran into and why it took as long as it did is we will not sacrifice on efficacy. And we did get there with Liberty 180. We had to maintain the performance, and we got there. And at the same time, it's going to be 20% higher in concentration and maintain that superior weed control for consistency and dependability in the field, which is critical.
Okay, I was just going to ask you from a practicality standpoint, what is that, increased concentration? What does that mean for the grower? So 20%.
Yeah. So essentially get more performance per drop. You reduce the number of totes and drums, and it helps from that logistical standpoint. on farm and also at retail. Just footprint at retail is at a premium, so it's going to help on both ends in terms of just managing the amount of totes you have on farm or drums.
So how does this, bringing Liberty Amp to the market for 2026 growing season, how does this fit within the totality of the innovation that BASF's bringing to the canola marketplace?
Yeah. So, today BASF supports, farmers across the globe and particularly in Canada on, producing higher yields and higher quality crops. And I think just one example, if you're to fly over Western Canada in July and you look out a window and you see a lot of yellow out there, 3 out of 5 of those fields of yellow flowers are BASF Invigor canola. So I think that in itself is an incredible testament to the innovation success story we've had in this space. But it doesn't happen by chance. We have and will continue to invest in Canadian ag. But these agronomic challenges are going to continue to pop up across this space, whether it's resistant weeds, whether it's new diseases. Verticillium wilt, I think, is a great example of this that continues to stretch westward. It's biology. Biology is going to continue to evolve, and we're going to continue to invest in this space, Shaun. Today we spend, I think it's about $4 million a day on R&D within the BASF ag space globally. Equates to about $1.5 billion per year, or 11 cents on every dollar that we bring in revenue. So considering how big the Canadian business is in the BASF ag world, we do get our fair share of that. And a lot of that goes back into investing in canola and the other crops within our portfolio. So I think a great proof point of our innovation in this space over the last decade, we've launched over, I think, 30 crop protection brands. And again, that's across crops. And in the same time frame, about 20 Invigor hybrids, each time kind of raising the yield potential and improving the critical, enhancing that pathogen protection that continues to evolve. And I think Verticillium is a great example of that.
Yeah. So that all of that, $1.5 billion, that's with a B, all of that money that's going into research, where does that lead to next in canola innovation?
Yeah. And it's always a bit of a moving target, Shaun, right? There's evolving pests on an annual basis, whether that's protecting against flea beetles, investing in breeding to manage new pathogens, whether that's clubroot, verticillium, blackleg. It is a bit of a moving target, but we try to stay ahead of it as much as we can, and adapt to those needs. So really, we're investing today to solve the problems of tomorrow.
If somebody wants more information on the launch of Liberty Amp and what it's going to be bringing to the marketplace in terms of the efficacy guarantee, the promises around efficacy and obviously performance, where do they go?
Yeah, so great question. agsolutions.ca. You'll find some information on our website there. Or again, reach out to your local BASF rep or your local ag retail.
That was Jared Veness. He is the National Technical Service Manager with BASF. We've got a lot coming up here on the show. When we come back, we're going to talk to Clint Jurke. We're going to talk all about agronomy around canola and dealing with weeds. Looking forward to it. You're listening to RealAg Radio, brought to you today by Liberty Amp from BASF.
Important update from FMC. Precision Pack DB878 Pro herbicide is now registered for use in front of oats, along with spring wheat, durum, winter wheat, and barley. DB878 Pro herbicide delivers proven kochia control, including herbicide-resistant biotypes, plus extended control of cleavers, dandelion, narrow-leaved hawksbeard, and volunteer canola. And with Precision Pack herbicide customization, you get the acres you need. No leftovers, no wasted time. See your local participating retailer today.
Anniversaries are a time of reflection, celebration, and connection. 10 years ago, G3 set out with a vision to build something better for Canadian grain farmers. And you joined us on that journey to launch a new national network. Thank you for the relationships that made it possible. A decade of growth, a decade of connections, and more in decades to come. Connect with your farm business representative or find your closest elevator at g3smarter.ca.
We have the financial tool you're looking for this harvest. An APP cash advance from Canadian Canola Growers Association offers short-term farm financing that gives you the flexibility to sell your inventory when the time and price are best for you. Borrow at a low interest rate of 0.25% below prime with your first $250,000 interest-free. Apply on over 50 commodities. Call our experienced team or visit ccga.ca. Cash advances are made under the Government of Canada's Advance Payments Program.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio, brought to you today by Liberty Amp and BASF. Joining us right now, we're going to talk some canola agronomy. We're joined right now by Clint Jurke. He is BASF's Regional Tech Services Manager. Hey, Clint, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, Shaun. Nice to see you again.
Hey, great to see you too, Clint. And we're going to talk today a lot about the launch of Liberty Amp and what that's all about. And there's a lot of excitement around. But I wanted to get into some hardcore agronomy with you and talk about weed management a little bit. I guess if you look across the prairies this year, there's just so much talk about kochia, but there's more to weed management than just dealing with kochia. We got more problems than just that.
Yeah. Every year is a different year, right? And I remember when I started my career kind of thinking, this year was a weird year. It'd be nice if we get back to normal. And now I'm 30 plus years in my career. I've not yet had a normal year. And so every year brings new challenges. And I know that this is cliche, and this year was another one of those years. The weather conditions that we had shaped our experiences with weeds. And this year was not an exception to that rule. Like for most of the prairies, we started out really dry. And as a result, there was quite a few acres that didn't get a pre-seed application of a herbicide. There just wasn't any weeds when we were seeding. And even as the crop was growing, it remained fairly dry in most of the prairies, that even the first in-crop applications were delayed quite a bit. And that seemed like a pretty nice boon, like less herbicide that we were applying in that situation. But once the rains did come in late July and August, and especially like in the brown soil zone area where it's that 1 in 10 year cycle that seems to be happening right now, where they're getting like an abundance of rainfall. And we had these really late flushes of weeds. And so we know that like a lot of producers, instead of doing, especially in canola, like doing two split applications of herbicides, only one application was likely applied. And then we get these late flushes of weeds. And so now we're in the situation of where we're trying to deal with kind of these later flushes as we're harvesting the crop and trying to decide, well, what do I do in order to set myself up for next year? And
because we had moisture through the back end of the year, does that make fall weed control more important then?
Yeah, it does, especially for like a lot of the thistle species, Canada thistle, sow thistle, narrow-leaved hawksbeard. Like I don't know if it's similar in the corridor between Edmonton and Saskatoon that I routinely travel. I've never seen ditches so full of these thistles that are gone to seed right now. Uh-oh. And it's pretty remarkable. It just had not seen that much thistle like that. So that's what's happening underneath the crop canopy. That's what's happening on the fence lines. And so we need to ensure that these don't become a bigger problem for us in 2026. So it's one of those weird situations.
Yeah. So in your travels, what else are you hearing from, like, what are some of the other challenges that growers are asking you about? Because if few people are asking you, there's probably a lot of other producers. It'd be nice to answer some of those questions.
Well, the big one always is kochia. Like it continues to expand into areas that are not kochia areas. Like it's always been viewed as a brown soils weed, and now we're having it well established within the dark browns and black soil zones. like there still are some areas of the prairies that don't have this well established yet, but I think it's just a matter of time. It seems to be on its way, and just given the fact of how easily it seems to adapt to our herbicides that we're using, like we have to really try tackling this as early as possible, like when it does appear in our neighborhood. And unfortunately, it's not a field specific type of weed. This is a neighborhood weed. It's a tumbleweed. It moves. How your neighbors are managing it does have an impact upon what you're going to be seeing in your fields. And so this is one of these situations where we need to all be looking at this and trying to tackle it as effectively as possible. Well,
and isn't the challenge with kochia and canola, one of the things is that canola early is not very competitive. And so that gives kochia time to ramp up, and that first flush, and that's the other challenge. There's multiple flushes, but in that first flush, before that crop really develops any sort of a canopy or something like that, kochia has a real advantage early on.
Yeah, and especially just the fact that it produces so many seeds. So if you had just even one kochia plant, like it's dropping tens of thousands of seeds, and so then you have so many new individuals in which that they can start out from that spot in the field. So you're right, canola is not that competitive early on, but that is one of the keys to being successful to managing this is tackling kochia as soon in the season as possible, making the right choices for your pre-seed burn-off to add as many groups that are still effective against kochia is a great idea. Seeding rate in your canola. Like this year is one of those years where actually it seemed like we did get a lot of canola seeds that produced plants. Usually that is right around 50%. And when we look at the surveys with farmers as well, we know that historically, like over the last 10 years, that the majority of farmers usually only have about 4 plants per square foot. When you have that few plants, there's a lot of opportunity for weeds to make use of that space, especially early season. And so targeting that 5 to 7 plants per square foot is going to be one of those keys to being successful. So that's one of those items. Planning for 2026 is make sure that you have enough seed on hand. Make sure that your seeding rates are going to be adequate so that you do have that crop canopy that will outcompete any later flushes or germinating kochia as it comes along.
Yeah, I actually saw a little bit of complaining on social media. People mad that they had such good success with emergence and didn't have the mortality that maybe they were a little bit used to, isn't that kind of a little bit strange given how dry it was in some parts early in the year?
Yeah, it was. We had a fairly good snowpack, I think, which is what contributed to it. We also had a fairly early start this year, and so growers were getting into some pretty good moisture. We did have a couple of lighter showers. I wouldn't say like big rains that came through in May, but that late May and all the way through June, that was our dry patch right through there.
Sometimes we too much when we're thinking about the next growing season. We make decisions based on solving last year's problems. So we've got to be, there is some nuance here, but is there anything else that we learned in 2025 that we should be carrying over to decision making in 26?
I think it's what I started out with. It's just that Mother Nature, we just never know what is going to be what is going to be the season. You're right. 2025, we're not going to have a repeat in 26. That's almost certain. But what is that condition? What are the conditions going to be in 26? We don't know. So the best way in which to plan for that is to take a risk management type of approach. Is make sure that you have all of the tools in place. Follow all of the best management practices that are recommended for getting a good crop established, getting that competitive crop, making sure that you've got this is all just basic good agronomy. Yeah. That good agronomy is going to ensure that we're going to have good weed control. The right fertility rate, like target the right amount of fertilizer for that field. Choose the right hybrid system that's going to or choose the right hybrid that's going to do the best in that particular field. All of these things will make for a better success with managing weeds.
Yeah, like to that point, think about 24. We start off decent moisture-wise. There's so much excitement. I can remember specifically, we were in like the end of May, beginning of June, and I had a listener from Edmonton say, I just talked to my agronomist, and I've got a generational crop out there. It never rained again. And that generational crop just sort of, gone. We didn't get any rain in the back half. There was epic disappointment with some of the yields, and expectations lowered. And then the combine got out there, and it was actually worse than we thought. That was 24. Okay, we get to 25. We start out dry. We don't get the heat, and so like that's another interesting dynamic. A lot of times we focus a little bit on the moisture situation, which is obviously very important, but we didn't get we've had probably more plus 30C days in September than we had actually in July. There also was in places like Manitoba where yields have really been good this year, but based on what growers have been telling me, there could be pockets where they're not, but on the most part, what I've been hearing from growers, and people are saying the smoke during some of that time probably was a little bit of a factor potentially as well. Just you look at 24 to 25, and there's a whole bunch of different variables there. So who really knows what the heck 26 is going to bring?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so again, just taking a risk management approach is always going to be our best strategy for being successful. Think of what the worst things that are going to happen and build a plan around that. Like, what are your bugs going to be? What are your weeds going to be? Are you going to be dealing with some diseases? Like, making sure that you've got all of these boxes checked off is going to be one of the keys to being successful.
Well, and you talked about seeding rate, but seeding date is something that growers have talked about a lot as well. So, and I haven't seen some of the combine numbers yet. But some growers have said their later seeded canola look better through the season than the early seeded canola. Now, but also that's the heat factor. They've been they didn't get blasted by 40-degree days during flowering time, which allows that later seeded product to maybe flourish a little bit. So that's what I mean about not trying to solve last year's problems in the upcoming season.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're going to see pan out on the combine, particularly with canola. The earlier seeded canola is lower yielding than the later, and that's just a reflection of the rains came in the middle of July, and the crop that was still flowering was the one that was able to capitalize on that and make it better, bigger seed, more seed. So that is going to be one of the interesting things, because you're absolutely right. In most years, planning to try getting that crop in as early as possible, trying to beat that July heat is one of those best management practices. And this is one of those years where it's the opposite.
Yeah. Well, and also people have been playing with their seeding date based on, trying to risk manage with the flea beetles. That's been another part of that strategy too, right?
Yeah. Flea beetles are a tougher one as well. There isn't an expert that I know in the industry that's comfortable at saying this is going to be a flea beetle season. This is where they're going to be a bad problem. They're just so random and so unpredictable. Oftentimes we thought late season, if you look at the flea beetle numbers, like there are bugs that are still out there and they are congregating. Sometimes you'll find them coating your vehicle when you're out in the field. That is not an indication of whether or not they're going to be a big problem next year, unfortunately. So again, taking that risk management approach of planning that flea beetles could be the big problem this year on your farm. You could be the unlucky one, and making sure that you've got all of those resources in place. Make sure you got the right seed treatments and ready to go if you do need to top up with an insecticide.
Well, Clint, I got to talk to the producer of this show because I'm not sure why you're not coming on here more often. It is great to chat with you and have a conversation like this. Such great agronomic advice. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, Shaun. Right on. Take care.
That is Clint Jurke. He is Regional Tech Services Manager with BASF. We've got more of the show coming up here right after a quick break, brought to you today by Liberty Amp and BASF. time for a product spotlight with Jared Veness, National Technical Service Manager with BASF Canada. We're going to talk about bringing to the market Liberty Amp. How did you identify the need?
When I started my career, 2001, we were looking at improving Liberty. This has been a need and an ask from the market for nearing 25, 26 years. It's a bulky product today, Liberty 150 is. There was always a need or an ask to get it more concentrated, but not lose efficacy. We finally got there in time for the 2026 field season. What we continually ran into and why it took as long as it did is we will not sacrifice on efficacy. At the same time, it's going to be 20% higher in concentration and maintain that superior weed control for consistency and dependability in the field, which is critical. Essentially, get more performance per drop. You reduce the number of totes and drums, and it helps from that logistical standpoint.
If somebody wants more information on the launch of Liberty Amp, where do they go?
agsolutions.ca.
Is your family farm's future uncertain? Silence might be the biggest risk of all. Discover how open conversations and gradual planning can secure your legacy and empower the next generation. Don't wait. Start the dialogue today. Learn more and download a transition planning checklist, your guide to farm succession planning at fcc.ca/knowledge. And welcome back to RealAg Radio, brought to you today by Liberty Amp from BASF. Let's talk about Invigor here a little bit right now. We'll park Liberty Amp for a second. We're talking right now to Mark Alberts. He is Invigor's Senior Brand Manager. Hey, Mark, how are we doing?
We're doing great today, Shaun. How are you?
Good. You're making me feel like fall, though. You have a sweater and a shirt underneath. What? Like it falls in the air.
Well, I guess, what is it, September 17th, and we are approaching fall. I might be one of those that runs a little cold in the BASF Calgary office here, so don't mind my sweater. But it looks like a beautiful day outside in the Calgary region today.
Good stuff. Okay, so I guess you're very in touch with what farmers are going through, and obviously, there's a lot of Invigor customers across the prairies. We can't argue against that. What are you hearing from growers in terms of how this year's shaping up?
Yeah, it's, harvest is rolling along. Variable, the word we'll use across the prairies in terms of progress. I'd say in Saskatchewan, for example, we're probably in the 20 to 25% range of the canola crop coming off. Around Calgary, we're probably closer to 10% and really just getting rolling here. So it looks like in at least in Alberta, Saskatchewan, the forecast over the next 7 to 10 days look pretty nice and open. It does look like in Manitoba there might be a little bit of rain in the forecast. So I believe things are going to keep moving along pretty good. Yields are coming in decent overall. And I just looking at our invigorresults.ca, which we can chat a little bit more about, and we'll go live soon. So we're starting to see some of those numbers come off, and in some spots, maybe those later seeded crops and a little bit of moisture, seeing some pretty nice yields so far, Shaun.
Yeah. And okay, so you mentioned invigorresults.ca. So if I go there, what am I going to find?
Yeah, so invigorresults.ca is a data-driven online platform that's very user-friendly. The URL, very simple, invigorresults.ca, and you'll actually see all of our demonstration strip trials and agronomic excellence, kind of our field programs across Western Canada, and that data live in a very easy-to-digest, understand way where you can look at your farm, for example, and what might be closest and see hybrids in the mix and how they're performing really as close to you as possible. We got about 20 sites that are off now, and invigorresults.ca actually will be live by early next week. So farmers, retailers, agronomists, please stay tuned and check out how the Invigor and competitive hybrids are performing across the prairies. You can look at things such as harvest ratings and a lot of different things that our farmer cooperators and our technical team will showcase. So we put a lot of effort into it. A big shout out and thank you actually to our farmer cooperators that are across the prairies and our tech teams that are busy at it right now. So next week it's live. Check out the results for yourself.
Yeah, and we're not talking about like one or two little plots we got around. We're talking about a lot of them.
Yeah, so our demonstration strip trial and agronomic excellence sites, just to kind of bring them together, well over 100 sites that we're going to have across the prairies with the hybrids in the ground from the farmers themselves using, in a lot of cases, their own equipment and agronomic practices. So this is real-time stuff. These are also replicated at a minimum 2 times, and in our agronomic excellence trials, actually 4 reps. So these are very, very good reliable sources of data for farmers to make really solid hybrid decisions.
So why do it?
To provide growers, agronomists, retails with really that information that's going to help them make the best local decision.
From this year. Yeah.
From this year, absolutely. And meanwhile, you can always go back and look as well. So a couple of the other features of InvigorResults.ca, once you see 2025, you can actually look back at 24, 23, the different hybrids, how they performed. They, of course, change over time, and the relevant competitors that are there. So it is just a really strong data source, honest information. We post trials, whether we win, lose, draw, and even if they don't come off, just to acknowledge our cooperators that are out there doing all this hard work for us. So it's a huge investment, and something that's going to continue to be a big focus for us as we continue to develop and bring more hybrids to market.
Yeah, you know what? And data and transparency and all that kind of stuff it definitely does serve a very good purpose. So let's talk about, and in Ag in Motion, we kind of talked about this a little bit too when we were together and we were being followed around by that crazy rooster. But we've got Invigor L355 PC. This is one that I know Invigor is, you guys are pretty excited about.
We are. So Invigor L355 PC is going to be launched for the first time for the 2026 growing season. It is in our demonstration strip trials and agronomic excellence sites now. So while farmers haven't, put it to the test in their own fields yet, they can check it out. And I really encourage folks to go see how it's performing. It's really going to have our strongest overall disease package yet, and is going to be an outstanding fit for growers in kind of the mid to longer growing zones. Blackleg resistance, strong verticillium stripe ratings, lodging resistance, and of course the things that growers are going to count on, like Invigor's patented pod shatter reduction technology and first generation clubroot protection. So I'll just share, actually, Shaun, a couple data points. I just pulled these earlier today. So, for example, in St. Rose, Manitoba, Invigor L355 PC won that demonstration strip trial against 7 other hybrids, at 54 bushels. And in Bozeman, in the Swan River region, similar at just about 64 bushels an acre, Invigor L355 PC. And we've seen as high as just under 70 in a couple spots as well. So it's performing very well. It's going to be a great additional tool in the lineup. And I think the key thing is just having more options to suit the growers across Western Canada and all the different challenges any given year can bring. We want to have a really diversified hybrid lineup, which we do.
Yeah, it's amazing. When we used to talk about 70 bushel canola, we were on irrigation. Now we're grabbing these on just a regular dryland acre.
Yeah, there's some strong numbers coming in, and again, we got about 20 sites that are going to be off, and folks can see starting early next week. And by the time all the dust settles here this fall, you're going to see a lot of action on there. So encourage folks to check it out and really just look at the hybrids and how they're performing near their farms.
So again, that website is invigorresults.ca, and the new hybrid is Invigor L355 PC. Mark, thanks so much for joining us here today on RealAg Radio.
Thank you, and happy harvest, and be safe out there, everyone.
Yeah, great point. I encourage everybody to check out our Farm Safety Roundup series we've been doing. The latest episode was about rural road safety. Good time to check that out, especially during harvest season. We'll be right back on RealAg Radio, brought to you today by Liberty Amp from BASF.
Whether you're running a farm operation, in a career within an organization, starting your own business, looking for your dream job, operating a company in agri-food, or want to hone your overall life skills, this conference is for you. Celebrating over 10 years of bringing women in ag and food together, join the Advancing Women Conference in Niagara Falls on November 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Visit advancingwomenconference.ca for more information and to register.
Ever hear that good things come to those who wait? Well, we think it's more like great rewards come to those who book their Invigor hybrid canola early. Through the Invigor Book and Buy Grower Program, you could earn a $30 per bag rebate when you book all your Invigor needs by November 14th. Speak with your local retailer about eligible hybrids. Terms and conditions apply. Book early. Come out ahead.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Today's show is brought to you by Liberty Amp from BASF, and we're going to learn a little bit more about this product that is launching for the 2026 crop year. Let's bring in our panel. And looking forward to having these three guys on the show here today and maybe get a bit of a harvest update. What are they hearing from growers, as well as talk a little bit about, let's take care of some of those weeds that are out there as well. Up first, we're talking to Brent Galbraith, who is the Senior Brand Manager for canola herbicides. Brent, how are we doing?
Doing well. Yourself?
Good. And you're based out of Calgary, right?
I am. Correct.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, it's great to have you here on the show. Also joining us is Regional Sales Manager in Saskatchewan, is Glen Forster. How are we doing, Glen?
Good. Excellent.
It's great to have you back on. We were together at Ag in Motion.
Yeah, we were. It was a nice little event there. So
yeah, it's the season has moved fast,
unbelievably fast. It's can't believe that we're getting near the end of harvest, or at least midway for most growers.
Yeah. Also joining us here today is Shaun McKnight. He is Technical Marketing Specialist for Herbicides at BASF, and he is based out of Calgary as well. Shaun, how are we doing?
I'm good. Thanks for asking.
Hey, so, okay, guys, I guess let's start off here. And maybe Glenn, we'll start with you. What I've been hearing from growers as we're into harvest here, especially on like canola, it seems like, and everybody's a little bit reserved. We don't have all the crop in the bin, of course, but it's kind of a pleasant surprise where yields are kind of coming in at. Some have said average, some have said above average. Of course, there's some areas where it could be definitely better. But what are you hearing, Glenn, from growers?
No, I think overall, everybody's relatively pleased with the way that everything's come in. You take a look at the season, we had that all that smoke again, and that extra rain kind of at that end of July or end of June, beginning of July, right as it was flowering. Like, I think the canola flowered for a lot longer this year and put on those extra bushels. So I think overall, again, there is some areas, like you said, that may have wished for a better overall yield, but even in those areas, I think they're pleasantly surprised with what's coming through the combine.
Brent, we just got to fix prices. So we've got the yield part here. We need to fix price. Brent, what have you been hearing from some of your colleagues at BASF as well as some of the customers?
Yeah, I think harvest has been rolling along relatively pretty good across most Western Canada is generally what I'm hearing. Yields are looking quite positive, I think, generally. Outside of a few pockets here and there where maybe it was a bit drier, they missed a few rains. But I think generally optimism is pretty high across farmers and within the ag community in general right now. So
yeah. Which is good to see, because there's a lot of tension right now. We've talked on RealAg Radio here about a lot of concern about canola, more on the marketing side and tariffs and all those kinds of things. So it's good to see some good news when it comes to canola production. We've got to take care of the marketing side of it, but definitely on the production side, things are they're better than we thought they would be if you go back to some of the expectations in the spring. So, Shaun, let's talk about Liberty Amp. Why are you excited?
I think I'm excited. The key thing is it's a new innovation in the glufosinate space. I think that's going to be awesome, right? Like, we've had Liberty 150 in the market for a really long time, and it took a long time to make some what we consider headway in terms of formulating a new product. But I think the exciting part is that we have new innovation in the space, and we've been waiting for it for a long time.
So, talk to me, dig a little deeper there, Shaun. When you say new innovation, why do you describe this as a new innovation?
Well, it's a new innovation. There's, in terms of what I'd consider the value of Liberty Amp is that, everything you've come to expect with 150, it's a really high performing glufosinate product. 180 is going to be the highest performing glufosinate brand on the market. And one of the key things there, I think, is that we've been able to concentrate the formulation, which is pretty cool. That's going to be awesome for retailers and growers. But the other thing is even just some of the tertiary things like handleability things. I would expect less foaming as a grower, those types of things. So I think it's going to be just a great innovation for the space, and growers have been waiting for it for a long time.
Yeah, that's cool. Glenn, would you agree with that? Are you getting a positive response to some of the grower meetings and growers you're talking to about this?
Definitely. I think one of the things, Liberty is not a product that doesn't take a lot of space on the shelf. So it uses up quite a bit of shed space. So I think from a retail side of things, getting more acres with out of the packaging is going to be quite substantial for theirs. They'll be able to bring in more products, have more availability for customers that are using it. And then as you take a look at growers, it's not like the size of equipment is getting any smaller. So having the ability to have more, less containers out there in your fills is always going to be a benefit. The other thing too is you're not sacrificing your efficacy, and that's the key when it comes to Liberty. We want to make sure that whenever we bring something out, that it's the highest level of efficacy for customers, so that they get a good experience.
So, and I'm not sure who wants to grab this, but is Liberty Amp? There's a higher concentration. Is it more effective then, or is it more about the packaging? Like, talk about, you mentioned efficacy, Glenn, but does that translate to more effective on some of the weeds that we're concerned about?
I think what it means is that you can use less product to get the same high level of efficacy that you get with Liberty. So that's the key with Liberty 150, and the difference between some of the competitors is that the consistent performance, whether it's cool, dry conditions, whether it was hard and off plants, you're getting good level of control with Liberty, and you can expect that with Liberty Amp.
Brent, from your aspect, what sticks out to you in terms of the Liberty Amp product and the launch here and some of the features?
So when I think of Liberty Amp, this product was actually designed in direct response to the customer feedback we've been receiving from growers over the past 25 or more years regarding Liberty. It's, of course, a very bulk product, as Glenn mentioned there. And the intention with this one essentially is to try and find a way to make it more concentrated while not actually losing any sort of weed control or efficacy associated with it. I do think this product is going to be an absolute huge win for our customers with that in mind. Just realizing that it will actually provide them that superior weed control, the consistent performance, lower use rates, and better foaming properties, and those type of things that I think are really going to help to separate us in this market here and really help to earn that customer's business.
So, Brent, you mentioned the feedback loop. What does that look like? Is this like, and I love talking to manufacturers on the seed and chem side, but also in the equipment space as well. They always talk about, this is customer driven. There's things that the customer has been asking for, they've wanted. What does that look like for you guys?
So for this one in particular, I can say I don't think I've been able to go to a grower event or meeting for the past better part of a decade as I've been managing this product without getting this kind of feedback back from at least one person in the room. Like, it is very consistent. I mean, of course, you think, as I say, like with Liberty 150, you have very high use rates, up to 1.62 liters per acre at the high use rate there. And you just think of that amount of volume and trying to manage that, get that on farm, package it, get it in the sprayer, etc. Like, that is a major pain point for our customers, and they've definitely not been too shy in sharing that with me over the past few years.
And you don't need, maybe you can't go here, but is this just kind of the beginning, or is there amp squared? It's like, is this, can we expect this push in this direction, to go further in the future?
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, innovation at BASF is our lifeblood. We're always looking at trying to improve the products and improve that customer user experience with everything we do. And I will say Liberty Amp will be the first launch of a new product within this space. And we do have a few other products in the pipeline that we're working on here. Don't want to set timelines on it. I mean, these are, I will say my experience working with this product, because it's so huge, second most used crop protection brand in Canada. There's a lot of factors that go into this. It's very complex at times. So as I say, probably within the next, say, 5 to 10 years, we will have another innovation. We definitely do have something in our pipeline. It's just about bringing that to market and having that supply reliability for our customers as well.
Yeah. And Shaun, I think to that point, the weeds continue to change, and maybe not just change in type, but how they adapt. And so we need to stay as close to that adaptation as we possibly can. Of course, we'd like to get ahead of them, but it feels like the weeds move a little bit quicker than some of the science does. just talk about that too in terms of this battle against the weeds.
Yeah, that's a good point, Shaun. I think, obviously, nature wins. I guess that's kind of the old saying, right? And they will continue to adapt, et cetera. And that's one of the things that I think we try to do well at BASF is innovation. But as we all know, it takes a long time to register products and stuff, I guess, right? But one of the challenges that we specifically face in Western Canada is just that our environment is so dry and we're so low in humidity generally. It just inherently makes products, not work as well. So I think that's part of our issue is it takes us extra time, or maybe we need extra surfactants, et cetera, to make our products work well. And so we have tough to control weeds like kochia and lamb's quarters and that type of thing that I like to pick on. And so those are specifically weeds when we have low humidity and it's dry. They're just tough to control inherently. So I think that's the biggest challenge we face. Is not just that, but I think our environment it just makes it tough as well.
How any concept or description of, because I think one thing that's sometimes lost on the farmer customer is the time it takes from, like, you get the feedback, right? Okay, we need to work on this. This is a really good idea. Maybe it's something you already had top of mind, and probably in this case it is. But what's the timeline look like from it's just not a case of, well, we're going to increase the concentration and we're just, that's simple. We'll do that for next year. Like there's a time period here to make this happen through testing with PMRA and all that kind of stuff. Shaun, can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I think it kind of depends a little bit on, whether you're trying to optimize an active ingredient or you're actually trying to launch a new active. But I mean, it could be anywhere from probably 8 to 15 years, depending on what end of the spectrum you're on. If you're optimizing something like we have with Liberty Amp, I mean, you start with trying to create a formulation, and then it takes multiple years of data. And then once you submit, it also takes multiple years. So for a product like that, you're probably looking at least 8 years. And then for new actives, it could be as many as 15. So it takes a really long time. And so that's why it's really important to try and stay on kind of the leading edge of what the customer needs, because we need to try and predict that more than a decade out, which is hard.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, we're great panel here. We got more coming up here with the guys. We got Shaun McKnight, Glen Forster, and Brent Galbraith, and we'll be back here on RealAg Radio right after this.
Dairy producers wanted for the first American Dairy Expo, November 5th and 6th at the Champlain Valley Exposition in Vermont. Grab a free breakfast, tour the 200 Company Dairy Innovation Trade Show, meet Olympian and dairy producer El St. Pierre, and take in the Dairy Delivers classroom. November 5th is Dairy Fest at 4 p.m., featuring a massive dairy buffet, live entertainment, and industry networking. Full details, discount coupon, and pre-expo tickets available at AmericanDairyExpo.com.
Built on over 100 years of seed innovation and unwavering commitment to farmers, Pioneer 100 Series canola hybrids deliver a step change in yield performance and agronomic traits. This isn't just better canola, it's different canola. Pioneer 100 Series. Contact your local Pioneer sales representative or visit pioneer.com/100 series to learn more today. And welcome back to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147 Sirius XM, brought to you by Liberty Amp, that is launching in 2026 from BASF. And we got a great panel here today. Really appreciate the guys joining us. We have Brent Galbraith, who is the Senior Brand Manager for Canola Herbicides, Glen Forster, who's the Regional Sales Manager in Saskatchewan, and Shaun McKnight, who is Technical Marketing Specialist for Herbicides. Okay, let's talk about weed control, because that's really the whole point here. When we're trying to find new ways or better ways to tackle some of these weeds. Glen, I think kochia is one that continues to come to the surface in terms of it being a major challenge.
Yeah, it should really be a 4-letter word is what kochia should be, but
it is in my mind, Glen.
Yeah, yes,
it
yeah. When you think about Western Canada, you think about the weed that is creeping further and further up. I'm heading up to Melfort today, and we even talk about kochia starting up there, and it's getting more and more a part of everybody's mind. But I think the one thing that when we take a look at the innovation that BASF has, we have what's called advanced weed control, and if you don't necessarily know what that is, it's kind of utilizing different modes of action in different parts of the season in order to get the best level of control. So when we take a look at certitude pre-seed, a group 27 and group 6 to have two modes of actions on kochia that is basically glyphosate resistance in Western Canada already, and then coming in with something like a Liberty Amp, which is a mode that still has a high level of control. And if you don't get good control, we have the protection plan that allows you to come in with a second application of Liberty to get control of that kochia. And I think talking with a few of our customers this year, it's even they starting to see the difference in the fields that they've utilized certitude and Liberty versus just the neighbors or the fields that they thought they didn't need to have that certitude in, and they're needing to come in and spray some heat to pre-harvest it in those fields, but not necessarily in the advanced weed control field. So getting ahead of it makes it that much better for your wheat crop, for your pulse crop, the years after as well.
Yeah. So Glenn, 8-10 years ago, if I was at a Milford Mustangs game in the Northern Lights Palace Arena, would I be hearing farmers talking about kochia?
Oh, no, not at all. Not even. Their biggest thing would have been cleavers probably. And cleavers is still top of mind and in the area. But you get a little bit south and all of a sudden kochia is creeping in. And once it's there, it kind of is there to stay, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is to the point, Brent, where, growers really do, there's like a chain reaction here, being out in your field, make sure you're on top of weed identification, and you have a advanced weed management strategy, to follow the terminology here. It's not a case of where every year is sort of an isolation. Like, we need to make sure that we're keeping track on what we've been doing throughout the year, so we got the proper rotation of these herbicides and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think using kochia as the example in particular there. So today we have confirmation of resistance for kochia group 2, 4, 9, I believe. Shaun, correct me if I'm wrong if I missed anything there.
14 as well.
14. Yeah. There we go. So, I mean, it is obviously.
This afternoon, there'll be another one added. So it's,
probably.
That's kind of how we're going.
So I think when we talk about that, though, and we're trying to obviously manage this very challenging weed that, I mean, to Glenn's point, is expanding to parts of Western Canada that's never really been a concern to this point, right? And I think when you put that in perspective, it's really about just making sure you're using the most effective products you possibly can to try and manage the challenges that are before you. So thinking of like that certitude plus Liberty combination, within that you'd have group 27, 6, and 10 within there, which, I mean, if you think back to what I just said about kochia, there's no resistance to any of those groups at this point in time, at least confirmed yet. And I think that's where it really comes down to it, is when we think of like this advanced weed control type of offer, it's making sure we do have that effective control, and something that, of course, we are willing to stand behind because we're very confident in the solution we have for our customers to manage this very challenging weed.
Shaun, so are we looking for, is Liberty Amp do we have higher expectations on effectiveness then? Or what's the why of why, if I've been using Liberty 150 in the past and now my retailer says, hey, you want to try some Amp? Why would I do that?
I mean, that's also a good question. I think, as a grower, I think I would be wanting to try and use the, newest innovations that are in the market. And so Liberty Amp is going to provide you with, a superior level of control. And then I think in terms of using the product, I think that's, again, where a lot of the real grower value is going to be as well. You're going to need less space on your spray rig. You're going to, it's lower use rates. And hopefully you'll be able to mix it and it won't foam all over the place like some of the, competitive glufosinate brands might do as well. So I think that's where a lot of the value comes from. It's just that it's going to be a less bulky product, and I think that's going to be awesome for growers.
Yeah, good point. And Brent, I know one of the things we were chatting about during the commercial break was, when we heard about this earlier in the show too, the packaging. We're talking about less of it. There's obviously a sustainability story there, but also that's a benefit to the grower as well.
Yeah, so I will say actually, in addition to just natural savings of having 20% higher concentrated product and using that much less packaging, one of the other things that we're actually introducing with this launch of Liberty Amp is a new tote, which will include up to 100% recycled plastic in the base. So this will be the first, Liberty will be the first crop protection product in Canada, which includes recycled package or plastic in its packaging, which I think is a huge development for us. To this point, we have used reusable bulk containers to help in actually managing some of our footprint from an environmental standpoint. Now, with the addition of this recycled plastic, it will help us to reduce up to 4 million pounds of plastic waste from Liberty packaging every year.
Just Liberty. That's a big number.
That's a big number.
I don't know if you're an expert in recycled plastic, but why is it taking so long?
So the challenge with it is, I'll probably preface this, I'm not an expert in this. I kind of picked this up as I've come along in this project. But I will say the thing with it is, because when you're using recycled plastic, you don't have the same ductility and strength of that recycled plastic of what you would normally have in virgin plastic, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. So with that, of course, BASF, outside of our ag division, we actually have a plastics division. And within that, we have a product called Ergocycle. And where this one really came to fruition was when we started lining up with those other folks on the plastic side of BASF, and we started talking about the idea of adding this new product actually within the packaging itself when we're using that recycled plastic to help improve that strength and ductility, because ultimately it's about making sure we're providing our customers a safe and elevated experience when they're actually using Liberty. And we weren't willing to waver on that safety at all within that. So, I mean, of course, it was about the sustainability, trying to reduce that plastic waste. But I mean, ultimately, we had to make sure we weren't doing something irresponsible at the same time and actually trying to push towards this, right?
Yeah. There's multiple benefits there, right? And Glenn, I know this. If there's one thing that really gets growers going, it is packaging. I don't know how many times over the years there's BASF not excluded from this. All the companies deal with this. Is trying to make the right decision on packaging. Growers like, no, thank you, or yes, this is awesome. Like there's a lot of thought that goes into not obviously the product itself, but how are we going to deliver that product from the warehouse to the farm, and most importantly, get it into the sprayer as effectively and efficiently as possible.
Yeah, for sure. And, and all of that thought is put into it. It's like, is it the right connection is it a consistent connection? And I think when you think of different products that come to the farm, how many times do you see on Twitter a comment about how there's a new connection that they have to do? Those types of things, when you do buy something like a Liberty or Liberty Amp and those products, you get the, every single one and every single package is the exact same package. And then the other aspect about it is, you're instead of spraying it on 320 acres, each package does 380 if it's the smaller tote, and instead of I think it's 640 was our large tote, and now it will go on 800 acres. So that much less out, if you all in the spray containers that are heading out to the field, you can take, a couple less totes out with you, maybe add in a couple of extra jugs or containers of Centurion ADV or something like that along with you.
Glenn, does that at all create, because the math previously worked out to a quarter section or a section, right? How do you think, do you have any suggestions on growers trying to manage the fact that it doesn't work out that way, or does that even matter?
I think it does and it doesn't, right? Because it's not every field is a quarter section. Even if you take a look at a quarter section, 320 acres, probably in a lot of the canola prairie pothole regions, it's maybe 300 acres, right? It's that actually is seeded acres in there. So I think, customers are, they optimize the spray, not necessarily the acres. So if you go from one field to the next with 50 liters in the tank, not a big deal, because you take a look at the amount of canola that the growers are spraying. If you load it up, the more that you can load up, the better. And ultimately, you still want to spray high water volumes, do all the right agronomic aspects of it. And this just makes it maybe a little bit easier to take more product out to the field with you.
Yeah, I showed my my local bias here in Southern Alberta where we don't have to deal with those potholes. We wish we had some potholes once in a while, Glenn. We wish we did. Okay. Brent, I wanted to hit on this. Availability. Is this for 2026, is Liberty Amp what I would call like a soft launch where you better speak for it now, or is this wide and vast, like supplies are not limited? What is the description of supply?
Yeah, great question. Probably the way I'd position it with you, it'll be more of a targeted launch in 2026, setting expectations of everybody. Roughly about 20% of what we sell out of our glufosinate and ammonium portfolio in 2026 will be Liberty Amp. I do want to be clear, though, in that same vein, that we will have more than enough Liberty 150 to meet our customers' needs. It's just more about, trying to obviously make this big transition. As I said previously, this is the second most used crop protection brand in Canada, and just trying to make that transition from one product to the other, it's probably going to take us a couple of years to get there, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, you say 20% of the acres, like that's a small, like that's a lot of product.
It is still a lot of product. when you put it in context of what we do sell in a year, for sure. But just thinking about 1 in 5 of every 1 in 5 acres that will be treated with Liberty will be Liberty Amp, I guess, essentially. So,
I'm getting into questions the growers are going to ask me. I know these are coming, so I'm just going to throw them your guys' way. Do I have to have an Invigor hybrid to get Liberty Amp, or can I still get it if I'm using an out-licensed hybrid?
You do not need to use or have Invigor. So essentially just work with your retail to make sure you actually book it if you're interested in actually trying some this upcoming season.
Yep. Perfect. Okay, sounds great. Hey, guys, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. Congratulations on the product launch of Liberty Amp. Look forward to hearing the grower feedback and what they think. And I guess, 2026 is going to be here before we know it. So make sure you talk to your local retailer as quickly as possible. Hey, Glenn, great chatting with you again.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Shaun.
Yep. Brent, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you. Cheers.
And Shaun, we managed to go in this whole show. We didn't talk about sports. I feel like we've left a hole here.
Yeah, we'll have to connect another time, I guess.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Okay, I want to thank BASF for being today's show's sponsor. Today's show was brought to you by Liberty Amp. Like I said, talk to your local retailer about the product. If you have any feedback on today's show, you can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also call that RealAg feedback line. The number is 855-776-6147. Thanks, everyone, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio. We'll, of course, chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.